Welcome to Tech Leaders Today with your host, Cassie Crossley. All comments, views, and opinions expressed on this show are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers. Now here's Cassie Crossley.
Welcome to Tech Leaders Today. I'm here with Eileen Laughlin. She's a market researcher at Software Advice, which is a Gartner company, which hosts online reviews for project management software and all sorts of other software. She joined the team in 2015 and specializes in collaboration and PPM tech trends. She conducts primary research with both consumers and business owners to get a full picture of technology's role in the market today. Her work has been featured on CIO.com, projectmanagement.com, and Projects at Work. Hello, Eileen.
Hi, Cassie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining me. So you work at Software Advice, and that's a Gartner company. I've worked with Gartner quite a bit, and I know that people who listen to this podcast are very familiar with the Gartner names. It was an interesting additional company that they had. So I'm very excited to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
I wanted to ask you, since you are a specialist on the project management software, I have been a PMO director and I work a lot in the program management arena and am responsible for putting out multi-million-dollar programs. I have moved to Agile, Scrum, and other techniques for my delivery. But tell me, when I'm hiring project management resources, it's important for them to have the experience in the tool that my company uses, or should I be looking more for the quality of the project managers?
Yes, Cassie, and that's a good question. Of course, it would be extremely convenient if that was always an option, and should your company be using a major name brand, it's entirely possible that the manager you're hiring for will have experience with that tool. However, it's more likely and more important for that matter for the manager to have experience with the project management framework that your company uses, be it waterfall, agile, lean, or a hybrid, over the actual tool. Systems within these frameworks are going to have similar features and capabilities, and there's not always a steep learning curve to picking them up. Most vendors will offer various training options, including online tutorials, help centers, and that kind of thing to get new users started using those tools. More important perhaps than experience with the tool your company uses is going to be to look for highly valuable project manager traits. These include the ability to manage scope creep, using reports to make data-driven decisions, initiating risk management protocols, and knowing when to challenge the status quo and break from the template. And of course, if knowledge of and experience with a specific tool is a sticking point for you or your company, one possible solution would be to look for managers with experience with comparable alternatives. There are numerous resources to help you find this information. For example, Software Advice publishes frequent alternative reports, which compare the top 4 or 5 alternatives to a popular solution, so you can see the similarities and differences between those products.
In your opinion, is there a difference in hiring project managers for waterfall versus agile projects? Because we're using both Microsoft projects in certain examples, and our dev teams want to use Jira. So we have that hybrid mix right now between the different tools. What is your opinion on that?
When you're hiring project managers, real-life experience, either with a similar project and definitely within the framework that is going to structure your team's workflows, is extremely important. I've spoken to several project management consultants and agile coaches who say that they personally value real-life experience over certifications and credentials when they're hiring, because these individuals with the real-life experience can provide concrete examples as to how they've impacted results on their team. For one, waterfall and agile projects are going to use different KPIs and reports and tracking to measure progress and performance. Secondly, waterfall and agile projects are going to require very different management styles. And as to the people actually on the ground doing the work, very different workflows as well. I'm sure you're aware that a popular credo for agile is self-managed teams. We actually just published a piece last week that looks at a Gartner prediction for 2020 regarding the changing role of the project manager in the face of agile teams. The source I spoke with for that article made a really impactful statement that I think applies here, that agile is not so much a destination as it is a direction, and to that the goal of an agile leader is aligned autonomy, which is letting your team know what's important to the organization. That includes what the goals are, what the problems the organization is trying to solve, and then giving the team the freedom within that structure to work towards those objectives. which is very different than the role of project manager for waterfall projects, which is much more of a supervisor.
When you're working with the teams that you just mentioned, you can have remote teams, and that's my experience quite a bit. I've got teams in India, France, and Massachusetts. And when we're working together on projects, the term and concept of co-location is not feasible. It's quite expensive. So remote teams are becoming more common. What collaboration features can support this type of team?
When you're working with remote teams, visual project management tools using Kanban boards or Scrum boards are really helpful because teams can see the backlog of work, what's assigned to them, what's assigned to their team members. Secondly, we found that with remote teams, having some sort of structured communication rules regarding either like in-person video chats or being active in a group forum is really helpful because it encourages a sense of collaboration among users.
Are you looking to reach technology leaders? Hosting a podcast does have some costs involved. I'm searching for sponsors on this weekly podcast to simply pay for the hosting, editing, and marketing associated with this great podcast. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast, please contact me through Twitter or my website, and soon you'll be reaching technology leaders around the world. Eileen, what are the main types of project management tools?
When I'm researching project management software, I found that most tools fit somewhere on the following scale, broken down by features and capabilities. They're going to be user-focused tools, team-focused tools, and manager and executive-oriented tools. So on the user-focused side, it's going to be personal dashboards, activity feeds, personal task tracking, and time tracking. On the team side, there's going to be a centralized collaborative workspace, file sharing, document storage, team dashboards and calendars. And then on the manager side, it's going to be more high-level planning, scheduling, and reporting. With managers and executives, the ability to track and report on progress and performance is going to be extremely important. Of course, there's the obvious distinction between tools as to whether they support agile or waterfall workflows. For example, if I offer Kanban or Scrum boards to help map out team workflows, Gantt charts for project planning and tracking are more waterfall-oriented, that sort of thing. Another consideration is going to be the types of tools designed to support specific teams or industries, although again, these tend to fall under the scale I mentioned earlier within one of the popular frameworks. As an example, development teams who work incrementally will often structure their work around user stories and track progress and performance on burn-down charts. Marketing teams and creative design teams are going to need an ultra-collaborative space with approval workflows, guest access, and so on. And then again, within each of these categories, tools are designed to manage either singular projects or those that are more comprehensive enough to manage programs and portfolios.
What interesting buyer trends have you identified from 2016 and moving into 2017? Where should CIOs invest for the coming year?
We conduct yearly analysis of trends among project management software buyers. Our 2016 analysis revealed an interesting finding. So while day-to-day functions like task and time tracking continue to be requested by many buyers, when taken together, capabilities that fall under project tracking, that's going to be reporting, dashboards, and even Gantt charts, turns out to be the number one capability requested by buyers. Moving into 2017, decision makers should consider tools that have that higher level of project tracking that are going to aid in performance and progress measurements. We actually recently conducted an analysis of several project management trends that Gartner highlighted on their hype cycle, and we looked specifically at whether or not they're going to be relevant for an SMB audience. Of those top trends, we found that SMBs should really pay attention to collaboration software, agile project management, and again, although not a tool, an important trend is going to be developing and valuing project manager skills, especially in regards to being able to perform earned value analysis and resource capacity planning without those advanced software tools.
Do you find that especially for the small business market, that might be too complex for that level? I mean, it seems quite a bit different in their capabilities versus enterprise, where you can distribute some of those functions across teams and people.
It is going to be on the higher level of an SMB capability, but something to be aware of and put on their long-term plans for growth. I would say it's definitely important.
project management tools can be an expensive investment for technology teams. What is the ROI on these tools and why should we invest?
That's a great question. And the truth is that the business case for these tools can be made on their positive impact on employee productivity alone without even getting into the potential for improving organizational performance. So there's a popular study by McKinsey that shows that on average, less than 40% of an employee's time is spent on role-specific tasks. What they spend the majority of their time doing is going to be writing and answering emails, searching for information, and trying to coordinate with other team members. So a project management tool that can help streamline this process and cut down on the amount of time spent wading through email discourse has the potential to double employee productivity, which is a pretty good case for ROI. If you're not already tracking KPIs as a way to understand the performance of and value derived from various project initiatives, out-of-the-box and customizable reports can be a great jumping-off point for doing so. Over time, these metrics are going to show decision makers and enable them to better analyze the risk versus reward for different types of projects, which is ultimately going to allow them to make more informed decisions on the types of projects that they choose to fund.
So going back to that question, is it possible to get an ROI on these tools?
So you can. One method is calculating the total cost of ownership, which is going to look at how much you're spending up front versus, I think the average is 10 years time with the tool. And you can look at, that considers subscription and perpetual licensing. But it's an investment that we have found pays off in the majority of buyers we speak with. And the fact that we continue to see more first-time buyers and second-time buyers in each of our yearly analysis reports.
When you're working with enterprise-level companies that are approaching this hybrid model, where they may have waterfall projects for infrastructure, and they may have many delivery teams that are going agile, it's difficult to find a platform that meets the needs of both teams. The total cost of ownership can grow higher and higher. So do you have any recommendations for leaders in that position?
We actually don't see that problem that often among small businesses. They're going to be more focused on one tool than coordinating across multiple platforms. But of course, a critical capability that Gartner always talks about is integration, and that should be a primary consideration when you're considering investing in new tools and especially considering the ROI derived from those tools. So you're going to need to look at how those different platforms integrate and if they can share data seamlessly. And that shouldn't be an issue between waterfall and project management projects. The data, of course, is going to be coming in from different types of reports, but being able to share that data is what's most important.
That's a very good point. Is there anything else regarding the project management space that we haven't covered that would be interesting to technology leaders?
You had asked about the top main types of project management tools. I was just going to add that Software Advice recently conducted an extensive data-driven analysis of various products in the project management market, which we publish on our site as a Frontrunners Quadrant. So this is different than Gartner's Magic Quadrant. Our Frontrunners Quadrant evaluates project management tools based on their capability and value for small businesses and places them in quadrants according to those ratings so that small businesses can find the best fits for their needs.
Thank you for all the information, Eileen. How can people reach out to you or Software Advice to get more information? What's the best channels?
People can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at EOLOUGHLIN5. You can also reach me via email, which is going to be Eileen@softwareadvice.com. That's EILEEN@softwareadvice.com. And on LinkedIn, which is going to be LinkedIn.com/IN/EILEENOLOUGHLIN. Additionally, if you're interested in checking out more resources for Software Advice, the Software Advice Twitter handle is going to be at PMSOFTADVICE. I look forward to connecting with everyone. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Eileen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Cassie.
I want to thank you so much for listening today. If you love this podcast, please do share it with your friends and colleagues, and please leave a review on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher because it makes a difference for circulation. For the show notes and other great info, enter your email into the mailing list at techleaderstoday.com. Thank you.